An underwhelming trade deadline for Nashville came and went Friday. On today's show, we're going to hear from Barry Trotz on the moves he did and didn't make, plus talk about the one offhanded comment he made in the press conference that has all the Predators fans talking. Plus, it was Stammer time Saturday night. We'll recap the performance of Steven Stamkos in an overtime win over the Blackhawks.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, your free daily Nashville Predators podcast. We are a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this Monday episode shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders and our everydayers who are tuning in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio and Friends. I have a partner in crime.
You do. I'm Emma Lingen, and I'm the Predators site editor and reporter for the Hockey News.
Emma, so much to get to today. Of course, we are going to break down the Predators trade deadline, share our thoughts on the things that did and did not happen. We're also going to hear from Barry Trotz on the decisions he made. And we've got to talk about one comment that had nothing to do with the trade deadline, but still has everybody talking. Plus, the Predators defeated the Blackhawks in dramatic overtime fashion Saturday night, and it turned out to be a major night for one Nashville Predator player. All right, Emma, so much to get to. Diving right in, and of course, we always recap games with our one word to describe the game, but I am just going to collectively summarize this on behalf of you and our insiders and myself. And our one word is 3 words, and those 3 words are Steven freaking Stamkos. Oh my gosh, you all. I pray you did not miss Saturday night's game. Blackhawks were in town. Steven Stamkos, hat trick, first hat trick as a Predator. A couple other milestones we're going to talk about there with Steven Stamkos in a minute, but it was just a really good win for the Predators. Again, overtime win. Soderblom was on fire. They ran into another hot goaltender, but this time the Predators pushed through, got 3 wins in a row, and won the game 3-2 in overtime. Emma, when you look at the performance of Steven Stamkos, what is your takeaway? And also, biggest milestone for you for Stamkos? Like what when you look at what he accomplished that night, what are you most proud of for Steven?
I mean, quite honestly, I think the thing with Steven Stamkos has been, he's coming off of this 13-game slump without a point. That's the longest of his career. And not only did he break that, but he has broken it with 8 points in his last 3 games.
Insane.
So he's had 3 consecutive multi-point games. And I think that is so big for him. Like, yes, of course, you're climbing the NHL all-time leaderboards, and that's all, a huge accomplishment. But even he kind of talked about it after the game. Like, those are the things it's more like you reflect on after the fact. And for him, I think the biggest thing, and we've been saying this, like, you got to get Steven Stamkos going. You got to get him going. Got to get him going. And he's going now. And I think that's so good, not just for him, but for the rest of the team. Because I think the way that Andrew Brunette said, it looks like he's having fun playing hockey again. And that, to me, I think is the biggest accomplishment of all of this. Just all the records and everything, he's gonna break those anyway. He's Steven freaking Stamkos. He's gonna do it. Yes. But I think that, like, getting back into this groove is so important for him right now, and just feeling good about his game.
Yeah. He had a quote after the game. We talked to him, of course, after the game about, having that first hat trick as a Predator, but also he passed Mike Bossy for 23rd in the NHL in all-time scoring. It was his 100th career multi-point game and his 14th career hat trick. Just a Saturday night for Steven Stamkos. But I love this quote. He said, as athletes, you want to win and you want to help your team win. Tonight was one of those nights and it felt good. And I think, like you mentioned, during that slump that he went through, Steven Stamkos is not used to being an athlete who isn't winning and helping his team win. And I think, don't underestimate how difficult that is. So to see him have this kind of night, to see what he's done in these last 3 games, you see him enjoying hockey again. And honestly, when Steven Stamkos is enjoying hockey, that locker room is going to enjoy hockey more. Results aside, they have to find their joy again.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of the things that we've talked about with this team, and like, you need to have something to build off of after this year, and finding that joy is going to be huge for that. I know a lot of people don't want to hear about it. They're not like, oh, we're not interested in moral victories, blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't think anyone is saying that, well, it doesn't matter that they had one of the worst seasons in franchise history as long as they had fun. Like, no one is saying that. But at this point, you got to try to salvage what you can. And if you're not, you're not salvaging wins necessarily. I mean, that's good to see. The wins are the result of, the effort and the joy, and they're all intertwined. And so I think that it's good for the group as a whole.
Yeah. I think Saturday night was a good game to kind of appease the fan base, in the sense that, of course, there's a large portion of the fan base that is like, we need to lose against the Blackhawks because, that's going to help us get a higher draft pick. And again, just 2 words, draft lottery. Just throwing draft lottery out there, Wikipedia, or listen to our last episode and kind of explain how that works. But I was like, look, everybody can walk away Saturday night feeling good because the Blackhawks also got a point. So those people who were like worried about the standings, Blackhawks got a point, but Nashville came away with the win. And again, this was one of those games where in the locker room, at least afterward, you can see the value of positive momentum for this team. And it's easier to value that when you see it like we do, as compared to getting a higher draft pick, and we talked about, momentum versus draft pick, and you really saw it in the locker room. You saw it in the bench. You saw it in, the post game as well. One thing I do have to say about this game, Emma, and it was an enjoyable game. I just want to throw this out there, and we'll touch on this coming up when we talk about Barry Trotz's press conference. But one thing I saw, and I'm just filing it away. This is not a grievance per se. It's an observation with an eyebrow raise. The Predators did go 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. They wanted to get Jordan Oesterle kind of into the rotation defensively. Totally understand that. One thing that I did noticed that Mark Jankowski caught out of position on that last Blackhawks goal. Did not see the ice again the rest of the game. Now, I understand that you're running 7 defensemen. He was out of position, made a mistake. I understand that. Want to get Oesterle in there, get him some reps. I just making the observation with an eyebrow raise, because if you're going to sit in a press conference on Friday and tell me that it's time to give young guys a chance, and then you bench a young guy for the rest of the game when he makes a mistake on Saturday night, I'm just going to keep one eyebrow raised and just watch. Just an observation. Just an observation.
It's almost as if this coach is perhaps not the right coach for this roster. I wonder who else has maybe been saying that. I don't know, but just a thought.
Observation with an eyebrow raise, everyone. Not a formal grievance yet. Coming up, we are going to pivot. We've got to talk through the trade deadline. Emma and I are going to break down what the Predators didn't do. We're going to hear from Barry Trotz, and we're going to tell you what we think the Predators did during the trade deadline that has us feeling good and maybe a little not so great. Today's episode is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. If you are looking for a snack that is both delicious and nutritious, you need to crack into a good source of protein with Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they are packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. I personally am a fan of the no shells variety. It's a perfect grab and go snack for those busy days, whether you are sitting at your desk working, you're on a road trip in the car, or if you just hit that point in the day where you know you need a quick protein boost. They are a great go-to. But if you love the crunch and the crack of opening every shell, you can always get the classic in-shell options as well. So get snackin' and get crackin' with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, Emma, trade deadline. You and I, just so everyone knows, we had talked about on Friday doing a little recap trade deadline video when everything was fresh. But here's what's real, people. The trade deadline is exhausting when you're covering it. And Anne was, in fact, in her pajamas at 5:19 and had ordered a pizza. So we had to regroup over the weekend. But we're here to talk about it now. Just a quick review. These are the moves that were made. Gus Nyquist, of course, to Minnesota for a second-round pick with 50% salary retention. Tommy Novak, Luke Shen to Pittsburgh for a fourth-round pick, and Michael Bunting. Mark Jankowski, this was one that came in late. Mark Jankowski to Carolina for a fifth-round pick. Emma, this was, for all intents and purposes, this was a seller's market. Players were going for pretty significant prices, pretty significant exchanges. Definitely some teams that were going all in. There were some really big deals made. When you look at what Nashville did, what's your kind of overall take? And then we'll kind of break things down deal by deal.
Well, again, this is, I think if you want to look at the individual deals, like we talked about Nyquist, great trade. That was a great trade. That's the seller's market that they capitalized on that. Jankowski to Carolina, sure. I mean, that's fine. That's a fine trade.
Mm-hmm.
It's the Pittsburgh one that I think a lot of people didn't like because the optics, and again, the optics are not good. I'm not saying they are. They're not good. They trade Tommy Novak and Luke Shen to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh then goes and flips Luke Shen to Winnipeg, Nashville's division rival, for 2 draft picks. So it makes Barry Trotz not look great. Totally fair criticism. And I am not, people are going to hear what they want to hear. So I don't know why I'm wasting my breath, but I'll just say it anyway.
Say what you want to say.
I'm not defending the moves. I'm not saying these were all great moves. All I'm saying is we don't know yet. We don't know yet. And so, quite honestly, was Luke Shen going to be part of your long-term plan? No. Was Tommy Novak going to be part of your long-term plan? The writing was on the wall. No.
Yeah.
And
it was rough.
And so I think that, could Barry Trotz have gotten more for them? Maybe. I mean, people are upset he didn't get a second round pick because that's what Pittsburgh got for Luke Shen. Okay, but right now the Predators don't need more draft picks. They need NHL ready players. They got Michael Bunting. Now, I'm not saying that Michael Bunting is going to be the second coming of Christ and just, fix everything, but he's fine for now. Michael Bunting is a fine player. You're not locked up with him long term. He's a UFA. You can flip him at the deadline next year if you want to. It's really, it's not that big of a deal. I think, the point that Barry Trotz made during his press conference on Friday was that I think he said there are 10 players. We have since parted with 10 players from our opening night roster. However, we have only brought back in 3. So what that means is that you have a lot more flexibility now than you did at the beginning of the season, because that was the biggest criticism with signing those, those big free agents in the offseason was, oh crap, now we have no cap space.
Right.
Now they've got quite a bit of cap space, and they have a lot of draft picks, and they have more flexibility with, to do more this offseason or at next year's deadline, whatever it is. And I think that, again, that's the part of the argument that I'm like, yes, Barry, good job.
Mm-hmm.
However, I'm not fully on the Barry Trotz defense train yet, because I want to see what he does with that cap space and that flexibility that he has now. To his credit, he had none, and now he's got a lot. And so that's good, but you need to go and now you have to kind of put your money where your mouth is and actually use that, whether it's free agency, trades, whatever, to make that flexibility work to your advantage. So it's like, I essentially, very long story short, was it a good deadline or a bad deadline for Barry Trotz and the Predators? I know a lot of people have very strong opinions about this. Quite honestly, I don't know yet. I think it was a half good. I think it was a half good because they did get more cap space and more flexibility. And people are like, well, we don't need that. Well, that cap space and flexibility, it's not going to help you right now. Nothing is going to help this team right now.
Right. Absolutely.
We're just trying to get to the finish line here. It comes into play this off season, and that's when I will be more, I will kind of be leaning in a little bit to see what happens, because it's like, okay, you have the tools, now let's build the house. So yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how I see it.
I like that perspective. And I think one of the things that is so tricky about being a general manager is that it takes the perfect combination of 2 opposite things. Number 1, an obscene amount of patience. And number 2, a very quick trigger finger to pull the finger on a deal. And you have to have both of those and use them at the appropriate times. This was a trade deadline where I think you see Barry Trotz using a lot of patience. And I'm not sure that I think the fan base wanted to see him pull the trigger on some things and end something more definitively by doing more. I will say, I thought his comments Friday about the Tommy Novak deal, I thought they were very interesting, because when that deal happened, I said I had 2 thoughts, and I'm not sure which one is true. Either he really loves Michael Bunting or he was really done with Tommy Novak. And I think he was just really done with Tommy Novak. This is what he had to say about making the deal for Bunting, the Novak Bunting conversation with Pittsburgh. Very interesting.
Michael Bunting and Tommy Novak, both teams agreed that he felt Michael Bunting was the more impactful player. And so trying to come up with a deal that worked for both, it became a bigger deal. But it's essentially the same deal. So, but people don't know behind the scenes, those type of things. So those are things that you have to realize.
Just very interesting that he puts out there, look, everybody knew that Michael Bunting was the better deal. Now, look, Michael Bunting and Tommy Novak, numbers-wise this season, are pretty comparable. 2 very different game styles, and I think that is something that was very important to Barry Trotz. Michael Bunting, a little more grit, a little more hard areas, a little more like sandpaper is the hockey term for it. Offensive upside, but no, so he's not just an agitator or anything like that. There's an offensive upside. Those are not words. Sandpaper is not a word you would use to describe Tommy Novak's game. And not a criticism of Tommy Novak's game. That's just not necessarily a particular element of his game. And, another thing that Trotz said is if I don't think I have the right guy, I move on. And I think, well, Juuso Parssinen and Phil Tomasino and Dante Fabro would say, yes, that is correct, sir. And he moved on from Tommy Novak.
Yeah, I
On.
think it's funny because with the whole I had to laugh a little bit because when he was talking, when you said that about like, I don't know if he just really liked Michael Bunting or really wanted to get rid of Tommy Novak. And I'm like, this is classic Barry Trotz. We saw it with Justin Barron. Yes, we were targeting him. We've been targeting him since last year. We really wanted this guy. And it's like, Barry, all due respect, you did not come into this season thinking, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to get
some Justin Barron.
I'm gonna get Justin Barron and Michael Bunting, and then we will be the wagon that we were supposed to be this year. No
Yes.
one is buying that. Like, I love Barry, I love it, but no one is buying that. Now, that being said, is Michael Bunting the more impactful player than Tommy Novak right now? Probably. He probably is. And he does play with that grit, that sandpaper. I saw a little bit of, chatter, people saying like, well, then he's just a more expensive Kiefer Sherwood. No, he's not, because we love Kiefer Sherwood, but Michael Bunting scores more goals than Kiefer Sherwood does.
And
And he
probably
brings the sandpaper.
that's probably the same demographic that has bemoaned not having Kiefer Sherwood also. Again, this is a season, and look, to the fan base, I say, I get it. Like, I get the feelings, but this is a season where, as my grandfather would say, some people would kick if they had both legs cut off. It's going to be the same people saying we should have never gotten rid of Kiefer Sherwood, who are now saying, great, we got a guy who's just like Kiefer Sherwood, but more expensive. But like you say, he scores goals.
He scores goals, and he's played for some really good teams. He's played with some really good players. I mean, in Pittsburgh, he was mostly playing on the second line with Evgeny Malkin and, doing really well. He did really well in Carolina too. So I think that Bunting, he's good for right now. Is he going to be a central piece that Barry Trotz builds around? No. But that's fine. Like, he's not elevating Michael Bunting to this,
He's not the
core
2C the
status.
franchise has needed for
No.
years and years. Nobody is saying that.
Well, but that's, I think, what people are upset about. It's like, if you bring in an NHL level player and it's not a 2C, like if it's not the center that we've been needing for years, then it was a failure of a trade.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, I hear you. However, those kinds of trades, like that kind of trade, probably wasn't going to happen for Nashville at the deadline.
Right.
Like, it's a seller's market in the sense that the contenders are going to be the ones who are willing to fork over a lot to get the pieces they need. Nashville was not in that position. If Nashville went and tried to get a 2C at the deadline, that would have made them a buyer. And that's not where they are. That's not where they are right now. And so I think that had the season gone differently, obviously we've been having a very different conversation right now. But I think that at the end of the day, it really comes down to the Luke Shen piece of that trade that I agree, the optics aren't good. The optics aren't good. However, you have in offloading Tommy Novak and Luke Shen, you get back Michael Bunting and a draft pick and almost $2 million in cap space, which, again, not really going to do anything for you right now. But
if you look at the long game, $2 million could be the difference between getting the guy Nashville needs and getting a Mr. Right Now in the long run. Yeah.
And again, Bunting, it's not like he ties up a ton of your salary cap. He's making $4.5 million a year. The cap's going up. He's a free agent after next year. So again, you could trade him next year if you don't want him. And again, I think people also get caught up in like, they like to craft or they like to fit events into the narrative that they have already crafted.
Yes.
And I get it. I get it. Why would you sign Alex Carrier to an extension only to trade him? Why would you sign Tommy Novak to an extension only to trade him? Why would you sign Dante Fabro only to put him on waivers? Now, the Fabro one,
that's tough.
that's a
That's a
tough
tough
one
one.
for me because you really do get nothing for him.
Yeah.
But with those others, it's like, okay, you kind of, it is like what you were talking about. You have to strike while the iron's hot. And if you can get value for something, and again, I'm not saying Justin Barron was equal value to Alex Carrier because goodness knows he's not. But you get a lot more cap space and more flexibility with that deal. Same thing with the Tommy Novak, Michael Bunting situation.
Mm-hmm.
So this could, again, I'm not saying with 100% certainty these were good moves. I'm saying these weren't bad moves yet, and they aren't
Mm-hmm.
good moves yet. We have to see now. He has gone and gotten himself, Barry Trotz has gotten himself this flexibility, this cap space that, in his defense, he did not have at the start of the year. He's put himself in a much better position now. Now it's about, okay, what do we do with this cap space? So that's when, this summer is really when I feel like I will have a better evaluation of this trade deadline for him. But right now, I know no one wants to hear it, but I don't have like super strong feelings either way about it.
Yeah. The problem, the issues, the waste will come, like you said, I think down the road. I don't think we can say this was a wasted trade deadline. I think we will find that out down the road. If he wastes the cap space that he's built, then we have a huge problem. So I agree with you. I think this is a wait and see. Coming up, Barry Trotz explained, quote, the plan. We're going to tell you what he had to say about that. We're also going to talk about the 2 moves he did not make. And oh, friends, yes, that's right. We're going to talk about the offhand comment that Barry Trotz made on Friday. And you all, it is Monday and everybody's still talking about it. We'll dive into that. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Factor. If you are looking to optimize your nutrition this year, Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh. They are never frozen. They're ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. They have 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week. You can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it is calorie smart, protein plus, or keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. Factor meals are a great option for busy seasons of life, whether it is something like a new baby. My son and daughter-in-law are loving their Factor meals at this stage of life, or even when you have sports practices every evening, or for empty nesters who want to eat healthy but really don't want to cook more food than they're going to eat, Factor is a great solution. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50off and use code LockedOnNHL50off, 50 off, to get 50% off your first box. Plus, you're going to get free shipping. Again, use code LockedOnNHL50off at factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. All right, Emma, a lot of conversation. We talk about this all the time. Barry Trotz, I love it. He talks in stream of consciousness. You ask him a question and you are going to get information. He even said Friday, I'm probably one of the more transparent GMs in the NHL. And I thought, and also clearly self-aware. Appreciate that, Barry Trotz. He talked about the plan. And this is something that people, have talked about, like, you've got to tear it down. You got to tear it down. Why is it Barry Trotz tearing it down? You got to sell off Yossi. And why'd you re-sign Saros? And we need a full, rebuild. And Barry Trotz very carefully outlined sort of what he means when he talks about the plan, what he envisions for the next few seasons. I just want to play this for you so we're all on the same page.
I said, this is the plan. This is what to expect. I don't think we expected to be here where we are. We said, we're going to, take our swings. I asked my scouts to do that. I'm going to do that in free agency when it was there. We did that, all with a lot of thought and intent with our whole organization. This year, it just didn't work out. We never really got traction. All the pieces just didn't get going in time, and we are where we are now. But I said that, those players that we added, plus some of our veteran players, are going to have to hold the fort till our young guys get here. You know, the Edstroms and the Surins and the Mollendykes and those type, the Woods and all, till they get here. But when they get here, we just can't leave them alone. We got to give them some people.
So when people want to say, what is Barry Trotz doing? That's what the plan is. He is talking about focusing on down the road, but using the veterans that he has now to A, set culture, B, to partner alongside some of these younger players and kind of help mentor them, help grow their game. And if that opens up a win sooner window with Stamkos and Marchessault and Yossi and Forsberg, great. But he also is not sacrificing the future seasons with the Mollendykes, the Woods, the Igor Surins, the David Edstroms. So that's what he's talking about when he talks about the plan. And I know most people don't believe that can work because we most often see teams do a full teardown and a full rebuild. But he's going to try to do this way. And so I just wanted to play that because I think so often people are saying, what in the hell is Barry Trotz doing? This is what Barry Trotz is doing. This is what he believes will work. Will it work? We won't know for a while. I will say this, in a microcosm of 3 games, it is interesting to see Luke Evangelista playing with Steven Stamkos and Ryan O'Reilly and what that has done for Luke Evangelista's game. So maybe, and again, just the smallest smidge of a sample size, it's an interesting thing to observe in that context. That's the plan, you all. That's what Barry Trotz told us Friday was the plan. Emma, I did want to ask you about 2 players that we really talked about that were, of course, buzzed about at the trade deadline that stayed Nashville Predators. Were you surprised that Colton Sissons and Michael McCarron were not moved?
I was not surprised at all that Colton Sissons was not moved. I was a little surprised that Michael McCarron wasn't moved. Not stunned, but a little surprised. But you know, in a way, it's almost like, okay, the reasons that he would have made a good trade, trade chip is like, well, he's big, he's physical, he's a grinder, he can play center, and he's really cheap. Weirdly, those are all the same reasons that Nashville kept him. But at the same time, it's like, okay, I think I get it. Like, I don't think Barry Trotz went into this deadline saying, like, everyone hands off Michael McCarron. We're not, no one, I'm sure he's taking calls. But if someone's offering him a 4th round pick for Michael McCarron, that in his mind, like, was not a good enough value. And I know a lot of fans and some members of the media do not agree with that. But I mean, even listening to Andrew Brunette talk, Andrew Brunette really likes Michael McCarron. He really likes Colton Sissons. He really likes Cole Smith, and he really likes Ryan O'Reilly. Those are the guys that he calls the 4 like identity bringers on their lines. And so those were guys that it's like, okay, I get it. I get why fans may not, they're not the flashiest players.
Not glamorous.
No. But they're also, they bring a lot of intangibles, and they're not eating up a lot of your cap space at all. So like, if people think that those guys are the reason that this team is not good this year, it's not it. It's not it.
Yeah. I was very glad to see Colton Sissons stay. That one would have been tough. And I think people, I get it, but he's so valuable. He's so valuable. Again, not glamorous, so valuable. And I think McCarron is the same way, not glamorous. If he would have been traded, I would have understood that. But again, Bruno has been very clear in these 3 wins, the way the lineups have gone. Each line now has one of those like motor guys, McCarron being one of them. And that's really important. I think that's part of what we're seeing. We're seeing better energy. We're seeing 4 lines rolling, and I don't think they wanted to mess with that.
We are seeing 4 lines rolling, which is huge. We also, though, he did say something to the effect of where, like, he has not ruled out, obviously, a lot will happen between now and then, but has not ruled out trading any of those guys at next year's deadline. All of
Right.
those guys are going to be on expiring contracts next year when they would be rentals. And, depending on where the Predators are at that point, like that, again, it's not like any of these guys, you don't have them on these like immovable
8-year
contracts.
deals.
Yeah,
Yes.
like they still, just because they stuck around this year doesn't mean they're sticking around forever. But right now, those guys make this team better. And people who I know, a lot of people do not agree that Michael McCarron makes this team better. But I mean, people are so caught up. He's slow for how big he is. He doesn't skate that fast. Okay, but that's not really what you need from him.
It's a role. He plays a specific role. Not
Yeah.
everybody on this Predators roster can do that or does that.
Yeah.
And right now, I think that role is working.
Yeah.
All right, Emma, we got to talk about the comment in the room, because after this press conference explaining what people were very confused about this trade deadline and these moves and these not moves, the only comment everybody was talking about all weekend long was this one from Barry Trotz talking about Andrew Brunette. Oh, buckle up, friends.
Bruno did a lot of adjusting this year, which I give him a lot of credit, and I handed him a tough hand at times, in terms of players up and down, number of players, all those things. I give him a tough hand, but he's growing as a coach all the time. I think he's a hell of a coach. I think he's a hell of a person. He's done everything like I said, in the hockey business, and I guarantee you, he'll take the summer, he'll come back, and he's more prepared for everything. That's what experience is that just gives you more understanding of what's important, what's not.
He will, I guarantee you, he will take the summer, he will come back, and then the rest of that sentence was Charlie Brown's teacher for everybody listening. Because did Barry Trotz just say that he is not firing Andrew Brunette in the offseason, Emma? What just happened there? All of the things that have happened, and literally everybody left that press conference, and everybody online was like, you got to be shitting me. He just said it. Did he just say that? Did he just say that, Emma?
So I had the same thought because he said it was like so quick the way he said, and so I was like, did he just say that?
Record scratch.
Yeah. However, the more time I have had to sit with this, I kind of have come to the conclusion of, what the hell else is he going to say? What's he going to say?
Yeah.
You can't say, like, well, yeah, obviously we're going to fire him in the summer, guys. Like, come on. Like, he's not going to do that.
Yeah.
He's not going to do anything that, puts his job security into question publicly, because that makes Brunette a lame duck. And then when you're trying to get what you want to get out of this team for the remainder of this season, it all just falls apart. It's just not, common sense. You're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And so I think that, he didn't go out of his way to say, like, absolutely 100% Andrew Brunette is our coach next year. This is, he didn't oversell, but he also, like, again, what else is he going to say? What else is he going to say?
And it was in response to a specific question about coaching and Andrew Brunette. The question wasn't, is Andrew Brunette coming back to coach? But there was a question that was about, coaching and the roster. So the question was asked that directed the conversation to coaching. The other thing I will say is, yes, I had the record scratch moment in my mind. Like, did I just hear that? But also remember, and we jokingly and very kindly say this, Barry Trotz talks in the stream of consciousness. So, but yeah. So while it is something of note, and you and I have said, maybe he comes back, but if he comes back, that leash needs to be like Phil Tomasino length.
Yeah.
Okay. Like Cody Glass long, like real short. But oh my gosh, of everything in that presser, Barry Trotz, you said that. You said that. So interesting. of note, again, what else could he say?
Yeah.
What else can he say? He has to give a vote of confidence during the season to his coach, which he has been consistent about doing. We will see what he opts to do in the off season and in the beginning of next season. But yes, oh my gosh. I thought we were going to talk about why we didn't trade Ryan O'Reilly for Josh Norris, but friends, that is not the conversation after that press conference because Barry Trotz said the thing. He said the thing. We'll see if he means it.
Yeah. The conversation became, damn, Barry really did not like Tommy Novak. And,
Yes.
oh, did Barry just say that he's bringing Bruno back next year? Which, like, again, Bruno's still under contract. So, like, it's not like
Assume it.
theoretically, yeah, you have to assume it. So,
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah. So that's sort of our trade deadline wrap up. Also, shout out Steven Stamkos with that hat trick. Love to see it. Ready to see more of that. We will not be seeing more of that at home this week. Nashville is headed out west for a road trip. They are going to be playing the San Jose Sharks tomorrow night. On tomorrow's show, we're going to preview that game. We're going to talk about what Nashville needs to do to continue to win. Remember, the Sharks gave the Predators some troubles earlier. Will a little bit different looking roster perform better? We're going to debate that on tomorrow's show. Emma, before we log off here today, let everyone know where they can find you and your work.
you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Emma_Lingen, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
And you can find me on social media and K_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for this Monday edition of the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day. Remember, we will be back tomorrow with that Sharks Preds game preview. We'll see you then.